What's up, y'all? I'm Kiara. Whether it's your first time clicking on this video or you are returning, thank you so much. This is my husband,
Joe,
and we are in part 2 of sharing our love story. So if you haven't watched our first video, go back and watch that one and then come back to this one. Okay, so where we left off in part 1 was literally Joe finally texted me. I finally got the phone number, I got the digits, and now we're going to take y'all through our talking stage. We talked on and off for about a year and a half before we officially got together. 0 out of 10, do not recommend, very ghetto. We started talking the very tail end of 2018, literally like December 30th, literally, was when I considered our like talking stage to really be. You remember that?
New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually remember the very first time we FaceTimed, which was literally the end of 2018. I was on a trip, getting ready to go on a cruise with my sister, and I was so excited because I'm like, I'm finally finna FaceTime this man. Y'all know in part 1, it took me a long time to get the number, you know what I mean? So now I'm gonna FaceTime him because I have not seen this man's face literally like since 2016. I've seen pictures that he's posted, but I didn't really like know for sure. I didn't really remember, you know, when I did see him in 2016, I didn't remember a lot about him. So you have, like, I'm very excited to FaceTime you. How did you feel like leading up to our FaceTime? Were you excited like me?
I wouldn't say I was excited, but it was like I was nervous because again, from the last video I said, you know, I wasn't the type to just sit up there and talk to a woman. I don't sit up there and talk to females. So it was like I was kind of nervous, kind of bittersweet at the same time. But
you was nervous?
Yeah, I was nervous.
I was excited. I couldn't tell that you were nervous though.
Cause I play it off. I'm smooth. You see, I'm smooth.
So when we FaceTime, I literally remember I was like in my mind when that phone call went through and I see his face, I'm like, yo, this man is way more fine. Like, this man fine. Like, not that I ever thought you were ugly, but I never thought you were ugly. But the pictures that you were posting on Instagram at the time, like, did you know justice? Like, I was like, yes. I was like, yo, this man is fine. Like,
why she gassing me like
more
this,
fine than I normally would prefer. Because ladies, like, I just did not have time to be dealing with a man who was fine, and then you go out and all the females looking at your man. Like, I just didn't want to have to deal with that. But I'm like, this man is fine. So I was just like, wow, okay, whole time I'm keeping my composure. So yeah, that was our very first FaceTime call, and I feel like after that, we were kind of consistent, right, with our communication. I mean, I've always been consistent with communication. The inconsistency came from him at the time. So I feel like in the beginning, we started off strong, right?
We did.
Even got to the point in February, you told me you was gonna come see me. Cause remember, y'all, we were distant. He was in Delaware, I was in California. And he was like, yo, I'm thinking about flying out there to see you. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yeah.
I was super excited. I mean, I was excited, but I was honestly like, I was a little nervous too, because I just felt like, God, this is moving too fast. I was like, am I really ready? Like, I just stopped doing my own thing. Like, am I really ready to be in a real relationship? But of course I wasn't gonna turn him down. So I was like, absolutely, like, let me know, you know, playing it cool. I'm the woman, he's the hunter, you know what I mean? And what happened after that?
So my plan was to go see her, but I had my own plans in my heart that I wanted to fulfill. I still wanted to play basketball. So I didn't tell her that I was gonna go play until like a couple days before.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, I remember one night we were on the phone, just to kind of remind y'all, Joe was working at Amazon, like 12-hour shifts, he was back home, and he was telling me like, I'm over this, I'm over just everything that he had going on, everything that I believe God was doing in him. It didn't feel good at the time, but it was something that he needed. and he was just like, I'm over this, like I may go, you know, play basketball again. And you know, people say stuff and you know, you don't really pay no mind. You be like, yeah, you know. So that's honestly how I felt. Like I didn't think he was serious. And literally like he texted me like, yeah, because we called each other KD and JB. Those were our initials. So he was like, hey KD, like I'm getting ready to go to Armenia. I leave tomorrow to go play basketball. Huh? In my mind, I'm like, wait, you supposed to, first of all, you supposed to come see me. It's February. I'm thinking Valentine's. Like, I'm like, what are you talking? And then you're going to Armenia and then you're going tomorrow? And I remember you were like, oh, it's just like 3 months. Like, I think it was a short thing. You were like, it's just 3 months. We're still gonna talk. You remember that? You were like, we'll still continue to talk. And I'm like, how far is Armenia? Like, yo, it's an 18-hour difference. Like, yo, we are barely getting it together with the 3-hour difference that we had. It literally completely threw me for a loop. And I just remember the only thing that I don't know if you remember, the only thing I told you was like, I don't feel like you're supposed to go. Remember? I texted him. I was like, I don't feel like you're supposed to go. Because what God was doing in our lives, I felt at the time, we were literally on the same level. Like, the things that we were learning, the paths that we were on, like we were both working jobs we didn't understand, but our character was being built. Like, it was just so much stuff that we had in common. And I just felt like, I'm like, that's weird. Like, I felt so much more, but because we just started talking, I didn't really share a lot with him. Now, if I was in a committed relationship, then I probably really would have went in and been like, I think you're running from like the assignment that God has for you. You definitely need to stay the course. You don't want to be outside of God's will. And I just know like for God is doing something within us, you know, at the time. And I just was like, I don't feel like, I just didn't feel like you going to go play basketball overseas was what God wanted for you at the time.
And just hearing her say that, as I look back, like I really believe I wasn't supposed to go, and I can wish I could play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. That doesn't take away what happened, but looking back, I do believe I was not supposed to go. But again, I had my own desires in my heart. I wanted to chase the dream, and my will and your will is not going to always align with God's will. He's going to give you the plans and the desires of your heart, but his plan is going to prevail over yours. And I wasn't ready to surrender at that time. I wasn't ready to submit. I was on fire for God. I just got home from playing overseas from Vietnam. I just had my first encounter with God, and you know, during this time, you know, I had the fear of the Lord. I still had the fear of the Lord, but I had the fear of the Lord to where I didn't want to do anything that was outside of his will, but I still had my own plans. So me making this decision to go back overseas wasn't the decision that it was my decision, but I don't believe that it was God's plan for me to go back overseas. And from Kiara's perspective, I know she was like, yo, what is you doing? She didn't really want to say all that she wanted to say because again, we was just getting to know each other.
So you telling me that you could be on fire for God, you could be believing God, saved and sanctified, wanting to do God's will, but still hold on to your will? Because that's what I heard you say, right? Like you could be doing all of that, but still not submitted? You know what I mean?
Wait though.
This is a rhetorical question because a lot of people, a lot of us, we love God, we know God, we believe in God, we're filled with the Holy Spirit, but guess what? We ain't submitted. That's another video, but I just had to point that out because that was like, I don't know if y'all caught that, but that was good.
But we got a lot of, I was a baby in Christ, quote unquote.
Like I knew Christ.
It's grown folks doing the same thing.
Ain't submitted.
But I wasn't.
That's not the title of this video.
Just leave it like this. I wasn't being led. I didn't surrender as I should have surrendered. And I made decisions that wasn't according to the will of God. Yeah. So during that time, what was your mindset?
Well, like I stated earlier, I had felt like you weren't supposed to go. I also felt like you chose basketball over pursuing our relationship. It confused me because at the time, God was really continuing to show me and confirm to me, like, this is who I have for you. This is what I want you to do. Like, all of these things. And so for you to leave, it kind of was contrary to what God was showing me. So it made me feel like, am I hearing wrong? Lord, am I hearing you right? Am I, you know? And like I said, because we had just started talking, like, I didn't really share a lot with Joel about what I was sensing God sharing with me, because I'm a babe in Christ as well. I'm just now learning to hear God's voice, and you learn hearing his voice by spending time with him. And side note, ladies, I'm going to create a video on how I knew this was my husband, because I know a lot of people ask that. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but yeah, it just made me feel confused. And I'm like, yo, am I hearing you right? Because this is not lining up with what you showed me. And honestly, I felt like once Joel decided to go play basketball overseas, things in our situationship, our relations got very difficult, and it was very rocky, and it was a mess in my opinion. Like, it just went pew. I felt like we was on our way to that Christian love story that y'all know about, but then it just went pew.
Nah, I want to tell y'all something though. During this time, it's just funny how the enemy works.
Ain't it?
It's funny how the enemy works. I can see now, looking back, I can see from an eagle's eye view. The enemy knew that I just had this encounter with God, number one. Number two, he knew I was seeking his face fully, like seeking his face fully. She was too. I was seeking his face. I was on fire for him. And I know he used my decision to go, he influenced the decision for me to go play overseas.
When you decided to go play overseas, what was that decision birthed out of?
It was birthed out of my identity. My identity wasn't fully in Christ. It was in who I thought I was.
What made you say, forget this, forget what I'm doing right now, I'm on to something else?
Selfishness.
I remember you were frustrated at your job.
Frustration. I feel like the enemy used my frustration with my job to just go do my own thing, and that's not necessarily what God wanted me to do. During that time, I believe, I was making things off my own conscious mind. I wasn't leaning on God for answers or trying to see where to go. I would just, I don't feel like doing this no more. It's hard on me. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm a hooper. I'm an athlete. I should be out here hooping, So I think that's
I mean, imagine you were playing basketball overseas and you come back home and you work at Amazon.
Whole identity flip.
Like, what? And God will do that, because it was honestly, you learned so much in those seasons where God is building your character. And you can honestly feel like, God, I'm called to so much more. Why am I here? And you have to be careful when you get in those moments of frustration, because you need to submit that to the Lord, express how you feel to a person, to God, but stay. Don't, if God said, I called you to this, I am calling you to this, this is what you need to be doing. Regardless of how you feel, you need to stay, because it is a dangerous place to be outside of the will of God. I don't care how frustrated you are, how broke you are, how sad you are. None of that is comparable to you being outside of the will of God.
Do not be a Jonah. Jonah kept running. He was running. And I feel like that's what I was doing. I got frustrated with where I was at, and I just wanted to run. And God had to do something for me to hear and see, like, yo, wake up. This is not what I want you to be doing. Go back where it's uncomfortable. I'm going to be with you during this time. I'm going to be building you up, but I feel like our carnal minds
and our
desires, it holds us back from fulfilling and doing the will of God.
I agree. So Yeah, that was a tidbit, y'all. Somebody needed to hear that, so we just had to get that out. So you went to go play in Armenia, and we tried talking, and it was a fail. Even had this experience where he left his phone, y'all, in the bus.
I think I lied.
Did you really lie, Joel?
I think so.
Are you serious? So where was your phone really at? You told me you were
Actually,
like...
guys, I got this little thing. It's a little thing that's inside of me called isolation. That when I'm going through something or I feel a certain type of way, I slip and fall into that little thing.
Are you serious though? So you really lied to me?
I lied to her, y'all.
This is my first time hearing this.
And I apologize for that. Like
Are
I lied,
you serious?
I lied to her. I didn't really lose my phone.
Y'all, oh my gosh!
Oh.
So at the time, I'm texting him, and I also learned that I have an anxious attachment style. So those of you who have suffered from abandonment, that means that when people leave you or you get abandoned, you get very anxious, right? So he wasn't texting, returning my call, so I'm blowing his phone up. Well, we about a month or so, 2 months into talking, I'm blowing his phone up, calling, texting, what's going on, because I'm feeling all this anxiety, not knowing at the time I am triggered by my own childhood trauma, but I'm like going in on him, and he texts me. Now I know he's lying. Oh my gosh, that hurts my feelings. He lied, and he told me like, yo, I left my phone in the bus all night. I'm just now getting to it. And that's when he broke up with me. He was like, you're doing too much. Like, we just started talking and you're already acting like this. I just think we need to heal. He was like, Bo, this is what he said. I still remember. You were like, you start using we. We both need to heal and just get to a better space before we continue to move forward. And he was like, if you're doing all of this now, like, what are you gonna be doing when we're dating years in? And in my head, I'm like, the same thing. So I've gotten a lot better, y'all, with therapy and understanding, like, we learn how to manage these triggers over here.
Hold on. Let's give a round of applause for me.
For you lied to me.
I just got into therapy, y'all.
Praise God.
Woo.
But you lied to me.
I did. I lied to you.
And then you broke up with me after you lied to me.
I didn't really break up with you. The reason why I broke up with her,
this is freeing us at this point.
I didn't break up with her, y'all. I used the excuse. I used my own thing that I was going through. And man, we do this. Man, let's keep it real. We be going through things in our own state of being. So to alleviate the person that we're talking to from any harm or any hurt, we try to come up with an excuse to why we should part ways.
And the excuse is often blamed on the woman, because you made it seem like you were like, you're doing too much, which at the time I was doing too much, 100%. But you lied to me.
I did lie.
You were ignoring my calls?
I was ignoring everybody's calls.
And I believe it, because
you know me.
So I have an anxious attachment style. He has a detached.
Jonah. I got a Jonah.
You have a detached attachment style. So when stuff is going wrong, Joel will detach himself. Of course, early on in our relationship, like, we're just talking. We didn't know that. He didn't even have the language for it. Now we can speak to it because we've been in therapy, we've been talking to people, we're able to talk about it now, but at the time we didn't know. I cannot believe you lied to me, y'all. I may need to take a second before I can just go forward with this video. Book, you lied. I felt so, like, after that, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm the reason why he broke up with me. Like, although we weren't technically officially together, like, I'm like,
But look at the,
like,
if you
I felt like I was the issue, it made me look at myself, because I did need to say, okay, Kiara, why are you doing all of that? Okay, y'all, I'm trying to get it together because this new information is just blowing me. Anyways, you broke up with me. Not really, but really. Broke up with me. You were still in Armenia. And I think I would try to reach out to you. I'm pretty sure a few weeks went by and I tried to reach out. like I felt horrible. I felt like I was to blame, and I also felt like, no, we cannot break up. Like, like honestly, I was like, God, what is happening? Like, you showed me all this stuff about this guy and me and him, and I'm like, we're not even talking. Like, this is weird, right? And so I think we just like we're on and off. Well, not really on and off. I would reach out to Joel a lot and like initiate conversation, just try to see how he's doing, stuff like that. You remember that? But nothing on the level of like when we first started to talk. It really wasn't like that. What was your mindset at that time?
Towards you? Well, personally, I wasn't really seeking a relationship at the moment because I was trying to build my relationship with God and trying to seek God's face and trying to know who He is. But at the same time, I still had my own desires.
Which were like what?
Still doing, basketball and stuff like that. I don't think I was looking for a woman like, I'm looking for a relationship. I think at that time I was fully locked in. And but knowing that you was seeking as well.
Seeking what?
Was seeking God as well. Like it gave me a comfortable and okay, well, she's seeking God too. I mean, we might have something to work with.
Did you think I was your wife at that point?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't.
I didn't. But I think that's how God works. I feel like He was working on you and He was working on me. But me, the man, I feel like He works with us differently. God had to dig some things out of me. He had to go harder on me a little bit because I wasn't trying to surrender yet. I wasn't trying to submit fully to Him.
And so yeah, y'all, like I said, I will film a video on how I knew my husband was the one, but I did make a lot of mistakes because I was reaching out to Joel a lot and I was fishing, really I wanted attention. I wanted us to talk. I felt like we needed to talk because in my head I'm like, how are we going to get married and we're not talking? And a lot of times, like you were saying, that's how God works, is sometimes He may tell the woman first, but with that, women, we are not to be like, hey, you my husband, you need to, so although I didn't really in the beginning, like I didn't really tell Joe like, hey, you're my husband. I wasn't saying that, but with my actions, it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of, I was putting a lot of pressure on Joel to like, we need to talk, we need to do all this, which I do believe led into also you being like, this is too much. I gotta, cause I'm like, yo, we gotta get the ball rolling. Like, you my husband, I need to learn everything about you. I felt like I needed to help God out. I felt like I needed to help God make His promise come to pass. And that is by no way, shape, or form. God does not need my help. The only thing He needed me to do was obey Him. And that's something for the video. I'll go more into that for the video. But that's kind of also like my mindset during the time. All of 2019, pretty much all of 2019, we were talking on and off again. It was a lot of me like pretty much trying to I'm putting pressure on Joel, like we need to talk. And Joel pretty much was like, do you remember that? Like I wasn't like telling Joel like, yo, we need to be together, but I felt like as a woman, if I could go back and if I knew what I know now, and a lot of it had to also do with my self-worth, I would have left Joel alone. I would have let God be God and do what it is that He needed to do. But I was so like, this needs to happen and this is not happening, so let me help God out. And I just felt like I was initiating conversation way too much, and stuff like that. So I think at one point, like we would try to talk and like it would always fall off on Joel's end.
I think to sum up everything that happened before I went back overseas in 2019, I feel like God was working on us individually, but we didn't know how to, we didn't understand it. We didn't know how to take it. And I feel like the pressures that we had just magnified everything. And it also brought our pressures brought up the things that was within us that God needed to work on.
I feel like God used us as like that iron sharpens iron. Although, because this is the thing, like God is God, right? And he's so sovereign that he can take our mistakes, he can take our broken areas and still turn it into something great. So although I was wrong, it's two left shoes, Joe was wrong, it's two left shoes. I believe that, like you said, it was like ironing, sharpening iron. Towards the end of 2019, I know you were like overseas, back home, overseas, back home. Like I said, we were talking on and off by the way of me. Like I would, you know, every time Joe would kind of fall off, sometimes you would come back and be like, hey, you know, I need to do better. I need to communicate better. So I remember I had told Joe, I said, hey, you're overseas, you're over there, I'm over here. So if you meet someone else, let me know. You know, just let me know. And if I meet someone else, I will let you know too. And we agreed to that, right? And so that was kind of like our pact that we had to each other. We weren't officially together. I wanted to be together, right? And I think I let that be known to you that I wanted to be together. And he would be like, I'm on the other side of the world. Like, he would be like, I like you and everything, but like, I'm on the other side of the world. Like, I don't even know when I'm gonna see you. Because at this point, y'all, we still have not seen each other in person since 2016. Do you remember that now? So I felt like I wanted to be in a relationship with him because I have all the confirmation from God, like everything, as well as very uncomfortable for me. The year 2019 was very uncomfortable for me because I'm having all these promises from God and nothing is being fulfilled. My life looks nothing like it. So I'm just like, we need to be together. I didn't care about the fact that I haven't seen him in a while. I didn't care about the fact that I didn't know that if his breath stunk or not. Like I didn't, you know, I wasn't just thinking logically. Sometimes women, we can think so much with our emotions, and he was more so like, I'm all the way over here. And I think at that point you were in the Philippines, right? He was like, I'm in the Philippines. You're in the US. Baby, no. Remember that? Okay, so let's talk more about that on the end of 2019. You're in the Philippines. We were still talking, and I think we were on again, right? We were on again with our talking, and we were doing good. And then Joe's communication was really bad. Like, it was like not responding to texts. It was hard to get him on the phone. And it was, his behavior was different. And I remember I would write to God and I'm just like, I don't really understand what's going on. Like, this is weird. And I didn't have any peace. Like, my peace was literally disrupted at this point. And I'm like, he act like he talking to another woman. But I'm like, you know, if he was talking to another woman, I know he would tell me because we built up such a friendship, y'all, and I had such a respect for him. I felt he had a respect for me. So I'm just like, you know, I'm like, that's what he's acting like? What's the tea? I need you to tell me what's going on because I'm getting ready to be off of this. You know, 2019, we've been talking on and off. And I, at the time, I haven't talked to no other guy. Like, I wasn't doing none of that because I'm like, for what? I already know who I'm gonna marry. But it's been a long year of this just on and off. And I'm starting to feel stupid because I'm believing that I'm gonna be with someone and he's being very inconsistent. He's been inconsistent all year. Like, I'm like, what's going on? And towards the end of 2019, this inconsistency got worse to a new level to where my peace was literally disrupted. And I'm like, God, I need to know what's going on or I'm about to be up off this. Like, I'm finna be done.
And it turns out I was talking to another woman and I confessed that to Kiara as well.
I remember that. I was like, I have my suspicions, but I did not know.
The reason why I began talking to another woman and I did not tell Kiara was the fact that, you know, the journey I was on, it started to become lonely. I started to seek out that comfort physically. You know, me and Kiara was apart, so that physical connection wasn't there.
So you had like a void, you would say.
I had a void in the way, so that physical barrier was kind of a stronghold. But the physical came into play to where I entertained it, which made it a whole another thing. So I think like men don't entertain anything that's not what God has for you. Don't entertain it because you're gonna end up doing something that wasn't necessarily supposed to happen. But God gives us choice, God gave us a free will. Everything that happened or happens, God can turn it around and make it something beautiful. So yeah, like I was entertaining things that I shouldn't have entertained, and it resulted in me having a daughter.